like to speak to you about the 3D and 5D narrative. Are we going somewhere, or are we already here? How to explain this narrative to, to people that don't grasp what kind of universe that is coming towards us, and what is the meaning behind all this, and what is the meaning behind this whole crisis? Is there a spiritual layer under it? Can you say something about that?
I think it's dangerous to even speak in terms of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7D nowadays. I think it served us okay whilst we were waking up in the dark. But honestly, now I think there is supernature or there is mortality. So either if we want to remain mortal, and I don't, not because I'm afraid of death, but because I find that death and rotting flesh smells bad. It's not the sexiest outcome. For me, the rainbow body is a pretty sexy outcome. To move into an etheric dissolution, as many great sadhus do to this very day. You have to go to Burma and Nepal and different places and the Atlas to go and witness this, and you have to care enough and you'll be received and you can go and witness this. But moving into the rainbow body and projecting plasma and steering our soul toward the next destination when we choose to, that is sexy. That is supernature at work. Mortality is when you are so unconscious that you have to wait until the sword comes down without even knowing about it, because you are so detached from your psionic intelligence, your spiritual supernature, that you're just a victim of circumstance in that sense. And you wait until you die and it happens without you knowing it. And your body rots, it smells awful, and it, whatever. It's just not, it's not a sexy way of going. That's my point. And I think that we should use our senses. We should start to get back to our eyes and our smell and our taste and our touch and what we feel, what we know, what we can see. Let's map it. And it's okay to step away from elements of the human experience that are not attractive. Taking a shit is not an attractive experience. I'm sorry. I don't think there's a beauty to defecation. I never did. I was always appalled as a child by the fact that humans need to defecate. That's just me. As I've got older, I've worked out, well, actually you don't need to. And that there is a means by which we completely re-entrain our biological systems to be able to override all of the kind of base functions. Of course, there's a beauty to the technology of the human body. I love all of that. And I love it now. I don't have a problem with that. But there's so many functions of the human body, the excretions and the functions of the detoxing, that are not attractive. They just are not. No one can convince me that snot out of the nose and sweat out of the armpit and shit out of the ass and pee out of no one can convince me that there's great beauty to that. There is not. There is great function there. There's great, engineering, bioengineering, fabulous. But no, I prefer a superluminal existence. Whatever planet I come from, and don't ask me the name, it does not include those kinds of base functions. Even the business of lovemaking is a different, and relationship is more quantum, more universalist, So I'm suggesting that there are ways and ways that we can choose to move into the fifth dimension, as you call it, whilst we're alive in this transition between the so-called fourth dimension and the so-called fifth dimension. But it all depends on the degree to which you are able to open up your own faculties of the imagination based on the learning and the knowing through your own senses. So imagination in and of itself is not very consequential and can be quite a dangerous thing, because a rogue imagination, and science fiction writers are a classic example of that. It doesn't make them enlightened human beings, even though they've got incredible imaginations. But if you've got an imagination that is connected to your own senses of where you are feeling you come from and where what you are reconvening to as a son or a daughter of God, that's a different game altogether. And I think that with these new indigo children and these new avatar kids that are being born exponentially now, we're seeing that reconvention anyway happening with these different star systems and these superluminal beings being born. Unfortunately, with Hans, our producer here, and you, Heidi, and me, it is our generation. We're still caught in the shit and the blood and the mud. And we still have to get involved with the mechanics of the transformation. You know, it's not just like, oh, we can go into some samadhi state and transition like babies being born today. Hopefully by the year 2030, they're going to be 9 years old. And at the age of 9, they're going to be waking up into a world where, you know, party politics and, you know, central banking and war and, you know, all of that stuff is just kind of like a bad memory that's really receding very quickly. That's the world I'm moving into. That's the world I'm taking the babes of this world who are being born today. They're coming with me. I know that because I'm the one who's holding that space and I'm at the front of that. I'm not relenting and I've got limitless amounts of power, as does anyone who steps into their supernature, limitless imagination and limitless power.
Thank you. So can you share your thoughts and your visions about the teachings of death and fear in this narrative of personal growth? And how can you keep up your frequency high to, let's say, because there is so much opinions and attacks on your work, I would suppose. It's probably going on for years already. How do you keep your frequency high in this situation?
Well, I don't read attacks on me, and I don't watch any of these disgusting links. What I do know is I've been around long enough to know that the work that I do and have done for a long time is very consistent, and it threatens the fabric of the infrastructure of the status quo. And they can't kill me. They've certainly tried. And no one's going to stop me in doing what I'm doing, for instance, or the people I work with. We're all very connected in our strength and in our mission, in our quest, and in the so-called objectives. I don't even like the term objective, but we're all connected to the same, more or less the same vision quest, which is to be the determiners of the outcome and no longer the victims of circumstance, simply put. Detractors and haters and trolls and agents do what they do, and the good ones do it well and the bad ones do it badly. And you know, I did have a laugh a couple of days ago when another friend of mine said, oh, have you seen, there's another film that's come out on you talking about the fact that you made all your money off rich widows. So now I'm not only do I rape babies in the basement, and not only am I a Luciferian, not only am I a Vatican crown agent who orchestrates the assassination of people, not only am I a controlled opposition of the Satanists and pedophiles by setting up the ITNJ, not only am I a Rockefeller, and not only am I, it goes on and on and on and on. And people keep saying, why don't you address it? And I'm saying, what's there to address? Yeah. I don't defend or protect anything. If people want to believe that, they must believe stuff. They must move where the frequency draws them. I see that as house cleaning. At a given point, I will be dealing with some of these monsters, because some of them have been causing harm to a couple of the initiatives. And that's another matter. And I'm not allowed to speak about that. I have to keep quiet about what's going on there because it's legal stuff. But I'm genuinely not concerned about personal attacks. They never affect me or cause me any unrest. I've not lost a night's sleep or got, oh my God, what they say. No, not remotely. And anyone, as I said, who aligns their own frequency to that stuff and moves against their own senses, which is to observe me, look at what I say, try and find a single thing wrong with what I say, other than a little slip up here and there where I get my facts wrong, like we all do. If anyone can have an argument with me and demonstrate anything that I've ever done or said in 22 years now in the public record, every single day, more or less, I'd be interested to have that conversation and beat the shit out of them, because they have no conversation. They have no argument. So again, let trolls and haters do what they're born to do. They're fulfilling a tragic, low frequency and fairly disgusting covenant of their own. They like to believe that they have a function, that they're seeking relevancy, or they're just working their way through hate and bitterness and jealousy. And I can't speak to that because I don't suffer from either hate or bitterness or jealousy. Ask me in another incarnation, maybe I could answer differently. But so I'm not concerned about that. I see them as being housekeepers for us. What I don't like is I don't like the fact that the mainstream media, which is also satanic and is operated by satanic influences and owned by satanic forces, and the real scummy, dirty trolls and haters and slanderers on the social media and the internet, they are in some sort of exercise, not of collusion, because these people don't regard these people as very intelligent and these people are too stupid to understand what these people are doing. But the point is there is still a kind of unconscious dance between mainstream media and this low element in social media. And it does increasingly leave this kind of feeling. In me, certainly, I've been so tempted in the last year, so tempted to step away altogether from social media. And then, of course, I don't do it because I know that we're making impact in so many positive ways. It's
also good to use it in the right way.
Well, I mean, you just do the numbers. So we do the numbers, we check the numbers. It's like, okay, out of every 1,000 messages, there is maybe 1 to 2 negative ones, and 1,000 seriously grateful and beautiful, glowing, affirmative ones. So as far as I'm concerned, that's where we place our attention increasingly on that. And the more we move into the accretion of the light field, the light body, the superluminal element of our nature and our world, the more we move into that beautiful quanta, the more this dirty, smelly little element of the human family, the trolling, hating energy, that becomes more and more black and reduced in its form and so stark until it's the only dirty little thing in the space. And that's part of the universal geometry playing out. Again, that's how light is cleaning, flushing that stuff out anyway. So there is a natural process to the cleaning of those elements. As I said earlier, one mustn't psychologically or emotionally identify with something and then judge it and then get angry about it, even if it's evil as sin and saying the most disgusting things and doing the most disgusting things. Only if it steps over the physical threshold and tries to harm the elderly or the infirm or the vulnerable or the weak, that's when my rage goes and I will happily shoot someone in the face with a gun without blinking. So, but there has to be that breach of the physical realm, if you know what I mean. That's why I'm so outspoken about how do you deal with police? How do you deal? And I have no problem with police. I know really good police. I was on last night for 2.5 hours taking testimony from a couple of the most beautiful police. One of them was a senior United Kingdom police and crime commissioner, famous guy, who we were taking testimony from in the International Tribunal, and another Crown prosecutor, an iconic policeman who's a public hero. Love the man to death and his work. I've got nothing wrong with good police. I love them to death. Problem is, there's hardly any. They're almost all zombies by now. That's the problem. In the same way that most gurus are complete frauds. And we're doing another show tonight using more of the scalar tech, which is really pissing off a lot of people. It's really pissing off a lot of people. But we're doing a whole bunch of numbers on another 12 or 13 world famous gurus. And I'll tell you, 2 of them come out as spiritual masters. The rest are like, you wouldn't want to leave your kids in a room with them.
Okay, well, that is a nice teaser to watch that show, I think. Yes. Speaking of police, you've probably heard about the riots and the anarchy from 2 weeks ago in several cities in our country. Would you say that, for example, demonstrating is helpful, or is it a waste of energy that attracts dark energies and holds us in the negative timeline of transformation of the planet? You probably heard about what happened in Eindhoven and other cities in the Netherlands.
It's a really difficult question. It's the kind of question I really pray that people don't ask me.
No, I just did.
That's okay. Let's go. It's a really tough one. The last thing in the world I would do is go and protest personally. On the other hand, good protesters, really good protesters, are legend for me. People who know how to take their rage and take their intelligence out onto the street, I think it's more good than not, frankly. I don't do it because I'm the kind of person who organizes protests. I don't go out there because I'm actually in the back room. And I can do a lot more damage working the way that I do. Damage to the status quo, to the devil. But I'm very, very grateful for protesters. I mean, you look at Nurse Kate Shemirani, who's a dear friend, and she's in England, and Professor Dolores Cahill, who's a very dear friend.
Yes.
And, you know, and Dr. David Martin in America, who's now becoming quite verbose in his kind of, you know, these are people who I love to death and who know how to protest because they know how to stand up and speak. I follow them as well, yes. They can get up and speak better than any parliamentarian or any prime minister. So I'd say protesting is more good than not. But I would prefer it if people realized before they protest that protests and petitions are factored into the business model. They are factored in, and they generally have little to no effect unless those good protesters go and interface with the police and speak to them on the front line, and not just in protest, but also go to the local police station, knock on, sit down, say, I'd like to speak to you about different points of law. I want to have a conversation and understand what I'm allowed to do, what I'm not allowed to do, and sit down with the police. And I'll tell you, oftentimes you'll find that you're the one educating them. And that I've done. So I've done that multiple times with police. So I've multiple times gone to go and speak with them and find out what they think they know about the law. I did this in Holland, a few years ago, where I ended up with half a dozen guys, police, and it was late at night, and I had a very expensive sports car, and I was trying to get to a conference in Eindhoven on time, and it was late, and I was going fast, but I wasn't breaking the speed limit, but I was like on the edge, and squad cars pulled me over and took me off, and other cars turned up because they thought I was a drug dealer because of my car. And, you know, like a guy with long hair driving this kind of car. And so they arranged 3 or 4 squad cars all turned up. And, you know, they all came at me and told me to open my boot and I said, no, get the fuck out of here. I'm opening the car boot for you. You're a bunch of
not opening anything.
Numb nuts in costume. You know, you look like nice guys, but you know, fuck all about law. No, thank you. Not going, not interested, not playing, not contracting. But I ended up, because I'd speak to terrible Dutch. So I was able to kind of speak to them and explain, hey, you got the wrong cat. This is the situation. This is who I am. Now, if you're polite to me, if you're nice to me, and if you ask me really nicely and you're genuine, I might open my boot of my car because I like you and because you're my brother. And we got to that kind of situation. Anyway, the point is that I did end up on that occasion speaking to a few guys and having a great rap with them and then educating them about actually what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. But it's always a learning curve because police, God bless them, themselves are always caught up in like new statutes and new rules, new regulations. I would say 2/3 of them are thick as shit. That's my experience, and are in costumes for the wrong reasons because they're too stupid to get a fulfilling, creative, affirmative job. 1/3 of them are good police who are actually in policing for the right reasons because they care about community and about structure. And that's a blessing and that's a gift. And I love them for it. And I will always endorse and support that. But I do envision a world that doesn't have police in costume under any circumstances going around telling humans how to behave and how not to behave, because that's just a nonsense. And it is quite clear that policing only emerged in order to protect satanic bankers and their private corporations masquerading as governments against the people. So that's why I'm so irreverent, because I don't foundationally have respect for the entire culture of police and policing, because I know what it is. It's all a racket, it's racketeering. It's jackals, racketeering, in the same way that judges are a racket in the justice system. And that barristers and lawyers are a racket of pigs in pinstripe suits who are fleecing people's misery, making far too much money. That's why 9 out of 10 of them are alcoholic. But, you know, it's just a dirty, dirty business, law, filthy, dirty business. And the same thing with banking and accounting. I mean, every accountant is crooked. Every single accountant is crooked. Every single bookkeeper is crooked, because they all learn. A good bookkeeper is very crooked. A good accountant is very crooked. And frankly, a good lawyer is the best liar. So, you know, go figure. We're in this weird situation where we're paying devils to do the devil's work, and we pretend that we're trying to get away from the devil. Come on. Let's just step away from that model altogether. I want nothing to do with lawyers and doctors and teachers and bankers and priests. I don't want any part of them in the new earth, the world that I envision, the one that I'm architecting and engineering and beginning to build. It has no
according
part.
to nature's laws.
Absolutely. All based on the fractality of nature and the laws of the universal gaze of the universal sky. That's it. Everything self-writes and self-heals if you remove the spells, the bonds, and the synthetic molecules. There you go. I've just given you ascension in 3 steps. Remove all the spells, remove all the bonds, and remove all the synthetic molecules. Everything else will write in 1 generation to paradise.
Wow, that is very nice. And I think I would like to end in a positive way with our conversation. Do you think that this great reset in a way is helping us in transforming us into a higher conscious being? Because we are here anyway, so let's just make the best out of it. That is what I think of it. Is there anything you would like to say on that?
Well, the great reset, whoever coined that, is both diabolical and beneficial. So it's good on the one hand, in as much as it does describe the kind of psycho-civilizational reset. That's a profoundly beautiful and positive thing. The fact that it's been largely engineered by the Luciferian mind in order to bring about another kind of defibrillation and control cloak over humanity for another cycle of draconian government and exploitation through digitized cryptoid banking mechanisms and invisible stealth technologies like the oxidative enzymes and the poisons being pumped into people's arms under cover of being a vaccination, which is genetically modifying us now into a transhuman AI genetic hybrid.
Yes, absolutely.
That is what it is. That is absolutely happening right now. So that's the stealth, the great reset that has been planned is reset of the human gene sequence. So it couldn't be more diabolical. The true reset of the Adamite, of the Christed ones, that's you and I, is the beauty, is the benefit that's emerging through this reset. And we win the day because we've already won the day. It's already happened. Like I said earlier, it's just a question now of the degree to which you and I choose to surf the bliss and the euphoria of this unfoldment. That's the choice we can make. To which degree we want to enjoy the euphoria and the bliss, because it's already upon us. We've already, in that sense, arrived. But for those who are not in phase resonance with their own inner light as it's emerging into this bliss field, they will be feeling more constricted, more afraid, more entropic, more terrorized and traumatized by life, by reality. They will be the ones rolling their sleeves up to get more and more injections until they're completely sterile or dead. I mean, by best understanding, the first phase of the so-called vaccination program is one thing. The second phase is a lot worse. 50% of people who get the second vaccination by best accounts won't survive. And I think we're going to see that happening. But already tens of millions, possibly hundreds of millions of imbeciles around the world are choosing to have the vaccine. And I will remind everyone, this is the good news. This is the closing. The European Council already ruled in the last few days, okay? The Council of Europe has already ruled in the last few days that there cannot ever be a mandatory vaccine, okay? It is not.
Yes.
Number one. Secondly, no one is allowed to discriminate against a non-vax person. So The airline that refuses to let you on the plane is breaking the law. Anyone who's trying to ridicule you or discriminate against you, say you cannot come in here without this or without that, they're discriminating. So as long as people know that, learn that, use that, we'll be good. It's all good. The outcome is assured.
That's a good ending of a conversation, because I was almost afraid that we were going to a negative ending of police, and this is thank you very much for this. And I think people that watch this video will be so happy to hear this out of your mouth saying, because there are so many people that are so extremely insecure about this and just follow any rules that are in the newspaper or whatever. And I think we need this. So thank you very much for this conversation.
I just need to apologize again for my bad language. I try not to use it. I find it very difficult. I always use bad language in my life, and I apologize if I offended anyone. But you know what? I don't really care, because today is the day, and now is the time. Really, if you're going to be pissed off and angry, and if ever there was a time to use bad language, this is it.
This is the time, absolutely, and it's absolutely okay, because the mothers in the Netherlands are extremely angry and pissed off and fucked off. So this is totally okay. Thank you so much, Sacha, and I wish you a very nice day, and maybe see you next time.
Thank you. Send us the link, and we'll get this out for you as well.